Hi, Joe Jacobson back here for another video in the series Step-by-Step Blog Building. And in the previous videos, we got the hosting set up and the domain names set up and connecting to each other. You might be in a little bit of a holding period right now. As I mentioned, it can take 24 to 72 hours sometimes for everything to get propagated. So while that's happening, you don't want to lay around idle. So there's a few things you can actually get done while that's happening. One of them is adding on domains to your hosting. Another one is emails, and there's a few other things you can do as well. Upload your actual WordPress software. So let's just go through this very short video, but it's something that you will need to know. So let's go through it here. Step number one is going back to your HostGator. Log into that, Cpanel. We covered that in the last video. You can find that login information inside of that receipt email that you got right after you signed up with your HostGator account or whatever hosting you're using. That was one way to get in, or you can get in by typing in your domain name /Cpanel. We'll demonstrate that in just a moment. Step number two, find that little add-on button and then click on it. And step number three is where you'll type in your new domain name. And there's not too much more to it than that. Step number four is something to keep in mind is that you can add on as many domain names as you want if you get this in HostGator called the baby account and above. And that's a good thing because in the future you want to be able to have the ability to break out new niches and new websites. Whatever you want to do, it's unlimited. So that's a good thing. Now, if you're just starting out with one domain name, you're brand new into this, you actually won't need to do this add-on domain function here because you only have one domain name, and that domain name is your primary domain that you registered with GoDaddy. I'm sorry, not GoDaddy. Where'd that come from? Don't even use GoDaddy anymore. But with your hosting account, you have the primary there and none other right now. So you won't need to use this, but this is good to know for the future. And also just another footnote is if you want to delete this domain name, or not the primary now, but any of these add-ons in the future, you can do that. It's very easy. We'll probably show you that as well here in a minute. But the point to keep in mind is that you're just deleting that domain name as an add-on, but if you added any files to that, in other words, if you built a website or blog on it, uploaded even the WordPress software, those files are still there. So you need to go into the file manager or into your own FTP client, and we'll cover that in the future, by the way, if you don't know what that is, but some way to go in there and remove the files if you choose to. Okay, so let's jump into it now. And we're going to go right on over to the browser again, and we're going to type in my case, /Cpanel, just to get to my login. Mine's already pre-populated in there, but again, use your username and the password that you set up for the hosting. Some people get that confused with the domain name, but be sure and keep those separate in your emails and a file system somehow. Okay, so go ahead and log in now into the Cpanel. And we're waiting. A little bit slow today again. Okay, so HostGator control panel. And you can see all the icons in here, all kinds of things you can do in here. Most of it, you won't even need to fool with it, especially if you're not a programmer, developer, you don't know how to work with databases. A lot of this stuff you don't need to access, or if you do, you might need to get some help on it. And there's also some other things in here, templates and so forth, that you just don't need, especially right now. So go ahead and scroll on down to add-on domains. And that is down yonder here under domains. Click on this one right here. You've got subdomains as well. We'll talk about that another time. And click on add-on domains. Okay, so right in here is what you do. So you go ahead and type in your new domain.com and then click on the tab key, and what happens is, see here, it goes ahead and populates this in here for you, and you can, most cases, just keep it the way it is. It actually creates a subdomain / FTP username right here. In this field, you can keep that the way it is. That's your FTP username, meaning if you're going to use an FTP client, that's what you would use in conjunction with the password, which is what you're going to come up with here in just a moment. It's going to tell you here, by default, it's going to put it in this directory right here under the root directory, and then public HTML / and then the name. That's how you'll find it as you're navigating to those folders, and you will need to find it later on as you're building your blog or website. Now, a password, in my case, it just put in a default one from before. So what you would do is put in a new one. I'll go ahead and create this, I guess, even though I won't need it. But I will go ahead and do it. Create a password. Let's see. And when you're doing this, it'll tell you if it's strong or not, and if they match. You want a pretty strong one in here. So be sure and use a combination of letters, numbers, and so forth, and sometimes capitalize things. So then from there, you can click on Add-on Domains, and it'll work there in the background doing that for you. Let's see if it actually does on this. Maybe it won't, because I made up some name that actually doesn't exist. But you get the idea here. If it comes back with an error message, oh, I guess it did. It went ahead and created that for me. Right here you can see that the add-on domain has been created, even though that's either not a real domain name or probably somebody already has it. Okay, so now it says right here, if you would like to manage the files for this domain name, you can go to the file manager. Actually can click on it right here, and it'll take you over there, and you can manage files, upload files, and so forth. But that's all we're going to do right now, because that's the extent of this video. But in the future, we will be loading the WordPress software through a script directly onto that new add-on domain. Or in your case, if you only have one domain name, like I said before, you won't need to go through this step right away until you create another add-on domain. Okay, so that's it. You click on Go Back, takes you back at least one step. Always remember, up here on the top left, you can click on Home, and that takes you back to the home page of your control panel, where you can go ahead and do something else if you're ready to. But for right now, we're going to stop it right here, and we'll go into another video in just a few minutes. So this has been Joe Jacobson with Step-by-Step Blog Building, and we'll see you real soon.